Sure. Okay. So, well, welcome everyone to Saturday morning. We'll just pretend we've just started. Um, do we have anything pressing? Oh, actually, I got some business to take care of first. So we're supposed to be doing the relationship handbook. I know that those of us that'll read it will, and those who won't, well, won't. But George has had an open heart surgery in May or June. I forget now what Terry said. And he may or may not be able to make our scheduled call. So what their admin assistant said, mentioned to me, is that Linda, so George's wife, might be able to come on to the call. I'm assuming that would be cool with everyone. I've never spoken to Linda, so I think it'd be really neat to have her. Under the circumstances, what I said to Linda was, if it serves you to come on and talk to us, great. And if it doesn't, then we'll reschedule it. Does that seem reasonable to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully George is all right and out of the woods. I mean, he's convalescing now, but it was a rough surgery from what I hear. He might still be able to do it. If not Linda, and if, as I said, if it doesn't serve them, then I'm certainly not going to put any pressure on anyone, right? So we might be stuck with each other for the whole 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah, okay, we're good with that. So I'm gonna start off with my favorite question these days, which is, what's better since last time we spoke? It's my most favorite question. What do we got? And please, if someone has done the reading and there's anything in the book, just so we can keep up our pretense of being a book club, feel free to lead with that.
Well, I had some resistance of reading the book at the beginning.
Right? Oh.
Because it's called I had bought it probably a year ago. I hadn't read it yet. And myself, I'm in the process of probably leaving my marriage.
Oh, wow.
So I was afraid that the book will be like turning off the light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well,
yeah.
I have nothing there. Anyone want to try that on for size? Well, I'm sorry.
So, Martine, what did it do for you?
Yeah, what did you find?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just up to chapter 3, so I'm still early on. So I'm still early on in the book, and I agree pretty much with everything that was written. I did underline a couple of things. There was food for thought, things that I knew, things that I thought I knew. Yeah, so like I said, I'm just up to chapter 3, so still early on in the book. So we'll see at the end.
I'm really curious. Things you thought you knew. Is there something you can share there, Martine?
Well, the things that you know intellectually, no. So you think you know that? So.
Yep.
And then maybe in a different light. But on the spot right now, nothing comes up. But yeah, there were like c'est quoi la compatibilité? Whatever the word in English is.
Compatibility.
Yeah. Somehow I cannot speak.
I'm gonna grab my copy.
That is a product of thought and a figment of imagination. So yeah. So that was a nice thing. Never put any thought into it, so that was a nice thing.
I was grabbing my book, so I missed the last end of that. If someone else heard it and can pick up the conversation from there, that'd be cool.
So, Martine, it just might be that it's not erasing the light at the end of your tunnel. It just might change the perspective and the way that you reach that tunnel with more ease and grace.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, more than likely.
I wondered about in the beginning, he talks about low mood therapy and high mood therapy, because we've been talking about solution kind of focused coaching. Did any of you think that the high mood therapy was compatible with solution-based coaching?
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
I last read this book a while ago, I'll be honest, Jessie Lynn, so I'll have to go through it again. Well, I will go through it again, and I'll look for that. So I'll have an answer for next week.
Yeah.
For myself personally.
Okay.
But if anyone has it now, what they think. I mean, Dominic's our man of great experience in that. Okay.
Well, the part that I read, it's actually immediately in chapter 1, a fresh start.
I just saw it.
That idea of fresh start. It's he says in there, therapists tend to teach couples to struggle with their problems. Now, I don't think that's fair, because maybe it was in the day that this was written, maybe, but I don't think all therapy is the same. But let's generalize, right? Therapists tend to teach couples to struggle with their problems. And then it says, instead of giving them a fresh start. And so actually, Jessie Lynn, I kind of thought the same thing. When I read that sentence and this idea of a fresh start, it did resonate for me with the approach of solution-focused coaching and also solution-focused therapy, because a fresh start is really, it's not this extreme, but it's really just ignoring the problem. It's not even starting with the problem. It starts more with the, what is it you want? Like, if things were ideal, what is it you want? How do you want your relationship to be? And with that, in every moment, there can be a fresh start. You can move from wherever you are right now into that fresh start of creating what it is that you want. So in that regard, I did see that parallel, Jessie Lynn.
Yeah, this just jumped out just below number 5. To get a fresh start in marriage, we must know that the so-called issues in a marriage are symptoms and not causes of disharmony. The cause of marital problems is bad software, a misunderstanding of the deeper dynamics of a relationship. That's interesting. Eh? Oh, it's been a while. I really enjoyed this book when I read it the first time. It really spoke to me across all relationships.
Now, what I didn't pick up, so George is saying he's distinguishing high mood therapy as a 3 principles approach, I think. I mean, yeah, I mean, isn't he, like, he's saying that, well, at least he's saying this is more consistent with a 3 principles understanding.
The high mood therapist sees that extracting misunderstandings, misinformation, overreactions, grudges, and discouragement from relationships lays a foundation for a fresh start. This observation keeps the high mood therapist hopeful and patient. She doesn't focus on problems. Instead, she explains personality and mood distortions and shows how misinformation damages relationships.
It's funny that he wrote that, because I was listening to Angus. He did an interview, I don't remember with who. And he said that him and Rohini got that from Linda and George, that when they first meet a couple, they let them vent for a while. And so they feel that they've been heard, and then they switch things around.
There is something to that too. Now, do you know how long that goes on for, Martine, in the way that they suggest?
I don't remember. it's not long, but they do let them vent so they feel kind of hurt type of thing, and then they do their things, right? So, but they do let them vent for a little while. But they don't say how long, so I don't know how long they let them go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is. So in my experience with that, and this is the skill of it, right? And I think that, I know we have all the debates in the in the group around coaching and whether you need training in coaching and all that stuff. But so in my experience with that, and with sort of some more training, I used to think, right? Oh yeah, of course you have to let them vent. And there is some truth to that, because they won't move on if they don't believe you don't understand them, right? So they must be heard. People must feel seen, heard, and understood. And if they're not, you don't have any rapport, because they don't think that you really understand them. And then it's interesting, because like in some training that I had, I don't think it was out of solution focused, but it was out of some team coaching training. This idea of, and they literally called it ventilation. You must ventilate the team, right? They would talk about this. You ventilate the team because the team will not go with you. Like, you can't like kind of move unless they're feeling heard. However, the process they use is so tight. And we did see an example of this. If anybody watched Kim In-Soo Berg in the recording that Michael posted. Now, I had never noticed it in solution-focused therapy or coaching, but she was just beautiful. She never shut anybody down. Like, they would talk. I mean, they would talk, and of course they spewed out problems with what the other partner was doing that was bugging them. And it was so humorous to watch, because she was like, let me get back to that. Let me, I'm gonna come back to that. Yeah. So she would listen to it, and she kept it so tight. Yeah. And what I've learned in the training is you have to keep it tight, because if they keep spewing, the partner gets more and more aggravated, because in their spewing, they are blaming. They are talking about what's wrong with the other person. The longer it goes on, the worse it gets. So what you do is you stop it, like you get it, you stop it, and you say, okay, I'm gonna come back to you. Now let's go to the other person. Mm-hmm. And so what ventilation is you get like, in the team coaching stuff I do, it's like you get basically like a 1 minute and finish. Now the next person, 1 minute, next person, and we're going to come around and keep coming around. You'll get a chance to keep going. And what's interesting is people just stop. Like, they get their minute, and then as everybody else goes, they're like, yeah, that's right. That is our problem. Yeah, that's right. That is what's wrong with this team. That's right. Like, so they're hearing it all, and then they're sort of exhausted. It's all like finished. And at that point, you have a blank page, and you have what the book is saying, a fresh start. Now there's a blank page. So now what do you want to talk about? Right?
Sounds, as you're describing that, Dominic, and Simone, I see your hand up there. I should have made it clear, we're a little less formal. You can jump in anytime you want. But the image that I was getting there, Dominic, is a child who's crying and just kind of peters out, and now is calm. They're all cried out, But that I think you're right. That opportunity to vent is critical. It also, from what I've seen, helps shine a light on a departure point. Depending on the skill of the coach, right? You can either get sucked down into the problem-solving aspect of it, but
okay. And on that point, Michael, just the skill in it is you have zero curiosity for what is being said.
Yeah, that's
okay. So the skill part of that is you do not have an interest in any of that, because there are no answers down those tunnels. when someone spews the blame or the horror of the situation, you are not at all curious about it. That is not where your questions go. Your sole purpose is in hearing them and understanding, of course, yeah, of course that was a bad thing, or that isn't right, and I understand why you would feel the way you feel, and there is no probing or moving into that. That's the skill part of that. Your curiosity is on. So what did you, now that you experienced that, what did that tell you about what you now want in a relationship?
Right.
Given that experience, what does that tell you you want in your partner? So your curiosity is forward moving. This is the skill, right? Your curiosity is not in what they are saying.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very nicely said, Dominic. Yeah, the one of the things that I took away from the training, and I shared with Jessie Lynn, was when people are venting, they're actually telling you what they're passionate about, what they care about. So when they're complaining, you know, to me, it seems like there are two coaching options there. You can go down the unlit road, or you can curate. I love that word these days. You can curate the positive stuff. You know, you can, when someone is complaining, well, you know, you're complaining about traffic. Well, maybe that means that you care about being on time for work. You know, there's always something, there's a different path to follow than the one that elicits your curiosity. I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but Simone, you've been very patient with your hand up there. What have you got? Hold on a second.
Hi. I put my hand up just to say that I read the book, actually.
Oh.
I put my hand up because you put your hand up, you've read the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add based on what you've heard so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think it's challenging to come at relationships from that angle of getting out of the habit of fixing. I've been married for 32 years and haven't managed to fix my husband yet.
Oh, well, maybe next year.
Yeah, I've given it a damn good try, but it doesn't work. So
Right.
I really enjoyed the book. And it made a lot of sense on a lot of levels. But I think it can be very habitual how we relate with each other, and you get into these habits of these mental habits of blaming and getting irritable with each other. And I think you have to drop underneath all that to the quieter place, which is where the book is pointing to, I guess. But I enjoyed the book. I thought it was very good. When you're actually reading it, it completely makes sense. But then when you stop reading it and you go back to your normal habits, so I think it takes a while for your mind to quieten enough to get to the heart of it.
Simone, I love what you said. It reminded me of another sort of part in this. But now I don't remember if it shows up in this book. Because the thing you said is about these habits, or they're like persistent, long-term things. And there's another guy called Gottman. And he's a guy, and I came across that stuff through more of the team coaching, not solution focused. But he says in relationships, by the way, this guy's all about relationships and marriages. His fame, right, is that as a therapist, if a couple sits in front of him in 5 minutes of simply being in conversation with them, he will predict probability of divorce with a very high accuracy rate, because he's simply observing a communication approach.
I've heard of him, actually.
Yes, yeah. And there's Gottman Marriage Institute. There's a lot of good learning out of some of the stuff
I think it was the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse or something he calls it.
Yes.
one was resentment, one was something else. I can't quite remember all of them, but
yes, resentment and contempt and of these things you do with people. It's like, you give them the silent treatment. You like and this is what starts to happen dynamically, right? But the point you made, which he makes, which is interesting, and I don't know if George does in this book, but he said that most of your problems in your marriage will be persistent. Sorry, and it's not about your problem. It's most of your problems with the other person are going to be persistent and will never change. And I was like, what? This is horrible. What kind of crap is this, right? but he said that's the thing to deal with is how do you manage that? So they're always going to nag at you when you're driving and tell you that you're going too fast, right? And so whatever, or to turn this way, or you're following too close or something. So there's these little problems, and that they'll go on and on and on, and you will never change them. And then he says, okay, so now what? And sort of starts from there. So that reminded me when you said what you said.
Yeah, and also I think it's about, having been married so long, what I find is that you get to a place of self-acceptance for the other person. And until you can get to that place of acceptance, you can't accept yourself. So all the time you're sort of looking outwards to change someone else. You're not looking towards yourself and how you contribute to the relationship. But what I'm doing at the moment is sort of doing a lot of work on compassion, non-violent communication, and that's been really useful. But that's a different, it's a different way to come at it.
A lot of good stuff in nonviolent communication. A lot of great principles. In that one too.
Yeah, but this approach is just kind of, and part of me thinks, well, is it just denial? Just to not do anything. There's still a part of me that thinks, well, isn't that just suppressing it or denying it? You know what I mean?
What if it's transcending it?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds nicer.
Well, but literally, right? Like at a level of being that I am, it is so irritating, right? Like at my ego level, my wanting to be right, my all of that. At that level, it is so irritating. And it goes on and on and on and on. But so am I suppressing it? Well, suppressing it it's interesting because I don't believe you can suppress it. Because I believe in an attempt to suppress it, you maintain a focus upon it, and you're trying to build your strength and resistance against it, which will tire you out, right? Because you're not a limitless energy. But in transcending is different. So I see it differently. My perspective shifts. I see that you're only irritating the part of me that just wants to be right and argue. Right. And so in a transcendence of that, and I'm not committed to being that part of me. So in a transcendence, to the degree that I can move beyond that part of me, that ego part of me, then you will, that behavior no longer bothers me to the same degree.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense.
That reminds me of a story of Linda Prinsky. She was saying that her and George were having a rough patch, and she was in Salt Spring Island, and she goes to this restaurant, and Sid was alone there. I don't know if he was eating breakfast or just having coffee. So she said, oh, here's my chance. And she goes to him and complains about George and all the problems. And then Sid asked her, did you used to enjoy, do stuff, enjoy, being with George? And she said, yeah. And then Sid says, well, do more of that. And she was pissed, right? And she said, well, okay, thank you. And then as she was going out and walking, she was really pissed at Sid. What kind of advice is that? And then all of a sudden it dumped on her. Yeah, just do more of that. So
Gotta love how simple that is, isn't it? Like on one hand, when you transcend it, it seems very simple, doesn't it? I wonder, Dominic, do you think you can ever fully transcend the ego?
Not at all, no. And I'm not sure you want to, right? It's kind of like there's peace, and it depends what we're saying about the ego, but to any degree that we're saying that's me under the illusion of form and believing that I'm here and all of that, if that's what we're calling ego, then it's wonderful. Because it's wonderful because it gets me, you put your camera onto that beautiful sky.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reason I get to see it is because I'm here in form, right? I get to, through this point of consciousness and perspective, and all of that is some element of ego. It is some element of me, right? Now, when we keep going down that path, then it'll get ugly because now I'm wanting to preserve things and all of that, which are bullshit.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But there's some piece of that which, it helps us to enjoy.
I know there's an audio somewhere where Sid talks about that, saying, we've been gifted with the ego. Like he talks a lot about transcending it or killing it even, I think, at some points, but he also seems to point to it being just a necessary aspect of what we are as humans. I'll have to see if I can dig that out from somewhere.
Yeah, thanks for the story, Martine, because when you said it, it resonated with me too. I've been married 25 years with my wife, and as you may have gathered by the kind of person I am, there's not going to be a lot of other people that are kind of this far in depth into this topic or these subjects that I tend to get into. And early in the marriage, I remember one of our concerns was, wow, what's going to happen because again, not a lot of people would be as into this, right? Well, and when you look for yourself, there are things that you are passionate about and that you love. And if you are expecting another human being to care or understand even about your passions, it's never going to happen. And so what I realized in what we saw, like with my wife and I, she had these interests and stuff. So today it's the funniest joke. Because I'll say, I will use certain language with her, which is she has zero interest in, and it's not even communicating, right? And I was like, well, that's sort of true, but not in real, the total consciousness or something. And she'll give me this look, like, what kind of BS is that, right? And then in the meantime, she, there are things she knows about whatever current events and things going on. And she just calls me dumb for not even, for not even being aware, right? Like of stuff that's in the news, things that have happened, current events. So, but we laugh about it. Like we think, there's something. So in other words, as opposed to it could be a point of conflict. It's like, I expect no satisfaction from engaging with her about spiritual conversations to understand the depth of anything, let alone try to explain to her coaching distinctions and why they're important. So I have zero expectation of having a conversation like that. And it's very important to me. So I go on Facebook and I talk to friends and I phone people and yeah. So go do more of that, just not with her.
I totally share. I'm listening to you there, Dominic, and Julie is sitting behind me, and I have more of an interest in this world than Julie does. And there's a point at which her eyes glaze over, and it's just like, okay, and she likes things like the royal family, which has my eyes glazing over in about 1 second. So yeah, I think what we're sort of speaking to is is our individual wholeness and completeness, and we don't require someone else to share exactly what we like, or expect someone to enjoy what we enjoy to the same level that we do. Is kind of what I'm hearing in that. Let's see what Arvin has to say. Arvin, what do you got?
No, I don't have to say anything. I'm not that big of an expert on relationship yet, so.
Not yet, eh? What makes you think that's going to change? You got to go see Johnny Soprano some more, dude.
That's a good point. I have a so if this what we are talking about is true, then why we are inclined to like certain kind of a people instead of all the people, right? So if we are, it's okay regardless whoever we are, we could love and have a good time and relationship and all that stuff. Why we are inclined to look for certain type of people that we are really can bond really fast, and some people really, whatever we try never work out.
Whew.
What your soul needs to learn.
Oh, say some more, Martine.
Yeah, I would like to hear more.
Okay. There might be soul contract that you lesson that you need to learn. You might be to learn to stand in your own power, and then you might attract relationships that brings you down until you know yourself and brings yourself into who you really are. Or for somebody else, it could be a different lesson. So you might attract or have a contract before you were born to have those relationships to help you along and into your enlightenment.
Okay, that's a theory.
Well, it is, of course. I have no proof of that. No.
But no, it's like a practical
Actually,
level.
I might have proof because once in a while I do life between lives work, and that comes up.
Yeah, but practical level, it doesn't make sense though. Like you can make up a story that we have to be enlightened in order to have a better relationship.
No, it's not what I said. It's not what I said.
No, it's like you have to grow in order to.
Let's say there's a lesson that you want to learn.
Okay.
I said to stand in your own power, or whatever you soul decided that wanted to get from this life.
Mm-hmm.
And you will attract the lessons, and the people that will help you along. Mm-hmm. Either by having a challenging relationship or help you and mentoring you towards what you want to do. So that might be a way of why you're more attracted to a certain type of people. There's also vibration. If you have a low vibration, well, you will attract to the low vibration. Anyway, so yeah.
But here,
I have no proof. No, just a theory. Right?
Go on, Martine. Prove it.
Okay, that is the one way of looking at it. But do anyone have a different answer to this? Because I've been like, one of the area that I cannot seems to get a hold of or understand properly is the relationship between man and a woman. So always been struggling, and it's relationship doesn't go the way I want to most of the time, and when it goes, it's always end up in short and all that stuff. So I trying to figure this out, but if anybody have any answers, the book Relationship Handbook, what I got out of that is just enjoy life as it comes, and then things will happen better. It did, then eventually stops. So, question, anybody have a better solution, better answer, anything that I can kind of get insight out of?
Well, I mean,
so can you say say what the question would be? Like, what's the thing you're wondering about?
So if it is if it is, we are able to have a relationship with anybody. So we could have a better relationship with regardless of who they are. We could have a good relationship, right? But why, as a person I am attracted to or moving towards certain kind of a people instead of the other people. So if I have, interaction with 100 people, I probably will like one person out of all them. Why is that the case when I could have relationship every single person that I am meeting?
I heard an explanation of that for
Yeah.
some weeks ago, and she said that when you feel good about yourself, those are the people that you love.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, it's when you feel the love for yourself in company with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how you do your choosing. When you don't feel good about yourself, when somebody triggers you and you don't act as you want to, you don't feel attraction. So that I've been playing around with that thought for a while, and I think it's something in there.
Yeah, it does make sense. When I'm feeling good, I am actually having a better time, right? So if that's true, then when I am not feeling good, I wouldn't have the better time with the same person. So it's not the person. I would, regardless of what's the answer for theory is, that wouldn't make any difference to the relationship, right?
Do you think we need to? Do you think we're supposed to get along with everyone we meet?
You can see them for the light that they are, but that doesn't mean that you want necessarily a relationship with that person. Like Trump, for example. No, you can see him for a misguided, whatever, and but he's still a human being. He's still having a human experience, having a human experience. Does that mean that I want a relationship with the guy? Not by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah. So we don't have to be in love with everybody. We have to just see them as a human or a spirit having a human experience. Sometimes we forget that, but that doesn't mean you need to have a relationship with everybody that you meet.
No, not related. Like I'm saying, I am moving toward certain kind of people. So even though there are a lot of people, I am more of inclined to go towards certain kind of a people. Okay. So that's why I'm asking, like, if if it is true that we could have anybody is okay, then why we are choosing certain kind of people? That's my question. It's not we cannot. So yeah.
I spoke to Garrett about this a while back, a couple of years ago, and he asked me what kind of ice cream I liked. So Arvind, what kind of ice cream do you like?
Vanilla.
Why?
It just tastes better. I feel better after eating it, and it's it's kind of a smooth ice cream than every other ice cream I have tried.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what my point was there, but I think it was sometimes we just like what we like.
True. That is very true. But why is that's the case?
Well, that's beyond my pay grade. Anyone else? Why do we? Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, Julie. Why do we like each other? I don't know. We're pretty different.
Well, I saw Kamini posted something resonated about what Martine had said, and although it's hard to explain or whatever, would love to hear even just what resonated for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Where's Kamini at?
Oh yeah.
Are you there, Kamini?
Okay,
There
it's
we go.
Kamini.
Nice. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm new to the this kind of a conversation, so bear with me. So it's, I mean, what resonated with me, I'll be able to tell it like there are times when there is a why me, why is this happening to me kind of thing. So when Martin said that, it sounds like, yeah, possibly it is because of that. Because some things that start to happen, like a snowballing thing that seems to happen suddenly, it's not like a whole life. It's those separate incidents that seem to happen, and those are the times when the why me or why this is happening to me. And so it sounds, yeah. And the thing is, this discussion is something that's coming up for me in two ways. One is I'm working with two different clients. One came to me for her health reasons. She wants to reduce weight, but somehow we have never got around talking about her weight or her health at all. All we are talking about is her relationship. And the second one is he's come to set his wife right. You understand? So, and I refuse to entertain his wanting me to talk to his wife, and I would rather talk with him first because he wants to set her right. So, in that process, what's happening is I kind of cut him off every time he brings his wife up. And in the case of the lady who talked about her health, where she just doesn't go there, and she's like, you know, it was something that I saw, like, I remarked to her, she was like this child who wants to get back to her husband in some form or the other. Let's say in a childish way, irritate him to the core, where he just kind of throws everything up and walks out on her. So I saw, I mean, I don't understand what's happening with humans and relationships and what they're doing to each other. So this kind of discussion takes me in a very interesting dimension. So I said, okay, yeah, let's listen.
Super cool.
I have. So in that case, I just wondering how many of here really understand relationship to good level. Oh my God, no.
Hold on, just to be clear. So the question, Arvin, is how many of us really understand?
Okay, so let's say, for example, somebody come with the questions about relationship, right? Would you be able to answer them so they can solve it? Or we're gonna just discuss about theory and all this stuff?
I'm comfortable to engage them in a conversation where they can see more and more about it. I don't have any answers, but I'm comfortable to engage them in a conversation where they can see more, and maybe out of that they might be able to answer questions in that inquiry. But but yeah, to understand I guess, this thing about the relationships is sort of like boy, if who we are, like we are individually, is potential and possibility of the universe, and then if you put two of us together, wow, I mean, how do you understand that? Like, I barely understand me, right? Like, you get two of them together, and then you start to sort of say, well, why are they together? And why would you be together? And you could actually be together with anybody. Why that one, not this one? I don't know if this is relevant, but Michael posted the recording of that SID talk from 1977. So I listened to it this morning, and
nice.
This one sentence jumped at me. It says, all you are is a cosmic thought manifest into form to play the game of life. All you are is a cosmic thought manifest into form to play the game of life. And then I kind of, all right, so there's something about into form that is specific. Because if you start to get into preferences, how come I like these type of people, not those type of people? What you're doing is going from pure possibility and potential, which has no distinction in it, to something more and more and more specific. So this, what Martine said is there's something to it to say, okay, well, it could be from more than just here, that something is, it's God who is everything, but kind of dreaming you up very specifically. Thought, right? Now, how much detail goes into a thought like that? Like, because there is a lot of detail. I mean, look, you're a man, not a woman. So right away, there's a detail that was there. You're the kind of the DNA and the height and like everything that you've got. Like, there's so much detail. And so you wonder whether there's a detail about, I don't know, maybe that is, obviously it will impact compatibility. There's some sort of detail in there that seems to impact vanilla ice cream versus chocolate, right? Because I like chocolate. So there's a very fine detail in there that was differently thought about you than has been thought about me. And then we sit here and sort of discover, what is this thought that I am? Like the details that God has come up with. Now, yeah, I mean, and these are all metaphors, right? They're all metaphors. But the other thing now in compatibility, Martine talked about lessons, and lessons don't resonate with me too much. Like, in other words, it doesn't resonate with me that I'm here to learn something, because if I go back to I'm a thought of God, I already know everything. So, some of you are aware of that. And others of you will soon be aware of it. Anyway.
Oh, that's funny, man. Carry on, Dom. Carry on.
But so I'm not sure it's lessons. However, Martine, this is probably the same thing, but as opposed to lessons, it's expansion. It is exploration, not a lesson like there's an answer and if I could just get this lesson like learning, but in exploration, I discover something more, right? So I'm already powerful, right? I already am powerful and I come here. And then out of this, I find that, you know, Trump bugs me and I think like he's ruining the world, right? And I feel disempowered by that. And there's something about the way life, I don't know, pushes against you in that way that will, Martine said, give you a lesson, but the other way to say, if you don't like that, is get you to discover something true about yourself. It was always true. But you limited, like in that, like you thought you're actually nothing, who has no influence on any of this, and Trump helped you to see that this is a belief, and then all of a sudden you kind of burst through it. So, you know, maybe in a relationship, it's kind of like, is it an attraction because you're interested in how that is expanding you, how it's taking you to more and exploring more aspects of yourself? I don't know.
Yeah.
What's running through my mind as you made that distinction, and that's maybe just a semantics thing, you know, but a lesson has the feeling of something that needs to be learned for there to be completion. Like it almost, as you were describing, it felt like problem solving, you know, like the lesson has to be learned before I can become the person that I'm supposed to be. That's interesting. These conversations always spur stuff. So cool.
Yeah.
So an expansion versus a fill in the missing pieces.
Yeah, and I mean, and this is theory, right? But this is theory is like where you're going, right? Is kind of this totally theory or whatever, maybe. God thought of you, but in this form with these specifics, you will now think beyond that thought. You will expand that thought. In a way, you co-create with God because you are a point of consciousness, an element within consciousness. And as a result of this experience, you will expand all that is. Because and by the way, what you feel is that is what desire is. It's kind of God wanting to express even more. So you feel God wanting to love in a place that you don't love, in a place that you hate, with a situation that you don't like, and what you're feeling is God's unconditional view of that. It's an unconditional love for that, and you're feeling bad. The bad part you feel is because you're not resonating with who you really are. And so that's what the expansion, the potential expansion, takes your point of consciousness and makes it bigger. So anyway, don't know how these things end up here.
I wonder, where does the ego fit into that? You know, we come into being as a point of consciousness. Is it a misuse of the ego? Like, our ego could see it as the way that you're describing it, as an expansion. Do you think our ego could also tell us just as easily that there's something wrong and needs to be fixed or solved? Like, is it a misunderstanding of how our ego operates that limits us?
Yeah, that is true, because we have certain ideas about things that we pretty much put on ourselves, right? So ideas and stuff that we might not work for us, but we still have it, then that is our ego saying, oh, you should do this instead of this, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to think about that a little bit more.
So the contrast or the differences, they spark desire. They create. Its creation happens out of that. So, you know, in the early days, right? Like, you know, this is what I mean by expansion, right? In the early days, art was these cave people with putting markings on a cave. I mean, that's art. Now you look at art today. How do you get from that to art that is, you know, there's modern art, there's the stuff that, you know, Picasso stuff, that whatever. Like, when you look to the diversity that there is today, it's almost like that idea, that creation that wanted to come through, that had somebody put these markings on a cave. As a result of the diversity, they said, wait a minute, why do we only have a black and a white, like just a line on a blank? How come, you know, the world's not like that? The world has color. Let's do colors. And then they did colors. And then people said, colors are not that simple. You don't just have blue and red. You should mix them, right? So the thing keeps getting more and more and more. And then they're, why are you limiting me to putting colors onto a surface? How come I couldn't sculpt it? How come I couldn't, right? And so you look that everything is sparking, like every progress sparks a desire for more. And if what that is that this manifested world in form is an expression of the possibility of God, the potential and possibility of God, we are not done yet. and we are all contributing to what does more look like, and what does more look like in the expression of what that potential and possibility is. And so every relationship is an opportunity for that.
How about level of consciousness? Because it seems that you were saying of the art, no, the Egyptians, oh, like this, no, and but there's level of consciousness. I don't know if it seems like humanity goes up and everybody has the same idea at the same time. Like EMDR and EMI, two separate individuals that had the same idea at the same time. Or somebody has an invention, but somebody else thought of the same invention at the same time. Seems like as if the level of consciousness goes up, those ideas get downloaded to the people. They were always there, but we were not maybe ready for those ideas yet.
I like that. So we're constantly growing in, like, as a massive humanity, or a massive consciousness. We're constantly growing into our next potential. Something like that, or as our collective consciousness grows, it enables us to expand. Like our point of interaction becomes broadened. Huh.
Well, and doesn't that make sense that we stand on top of all that has been before? Like, and every consciousness coming into form at this point, I think to Martine's point, has all of this already. So we look at babies like that they're the ones who we are going to have to teach. They are who we need to learn from because they've come in already at this place, and then they will take this further. You know, what is the thing, the prophet Khalil Gibran? There's a poem that so moved me in my 20s before I ever had kids, and he says, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. Do not strive to make them like you. I'm paraphrasing now, but you need to strive to be more like them. Right? So it's like life is coming in and it is wanting something. And all of us here have taken it wherever we've taken it. But the next ones that come in and the next ones that come in, they come in on this platform and keep going. So it's yeah.
So Martine, would that fit with you mentioned levels of consciousness? And would it be fair then that as new creation comes into the world, it's always coming in at a higher level of consciousness than what's there already?
Well, just look at the kids right now. Now, some call them indigo or crystal or whatever you want to call them. But look at this Swedish little girl, no, that's trying to change the world. All those kids that do all kinds of extraordinary things. So I think they do come in if the parents don't shut it down. They do come with a higher consciousness. This seems to be different than
maybe they're just unspoiled.
they're more invariant to the environment or something. So just so that the kids right now, and if I compared, like I'm in mid-50s, so if I compare when I was at their age, like they like eons.
Yeah.
So I do think that they do come with a higher consciousness right now.
Or maybe they haven't been spoiled by the older generation. You know, I think just like few days ago, I went to a conference for science in Toronto, and I was so surprised about the question that kids were asking compared to the older people who came to the event, because the question they were asking is a lot more insightful, but simple. Very simple questions, but inside, for example, this kid, like 12-year or something, and the Nobel Prize winner was on the stage, and this kid asked a question. The Nobel Prize winner actually discovered particles, like in breaking the atom, and he discovered a particle that before nobody knew that existed. So this kid was saying, how, if the particle is faster than the light, you wouldn't be able to detect it? And I was thinking, that is so simple question. Like, if it is there's particle more than faster than light, he won't be able to see it. But this opens up a question where there are more particles than we actually can see there. I was like, oh my God, 12-year-old kid asked this question, and I'm sitting there like I would never come to this question ever. Even now, that question is so powerful for me. Like when I was listening to that kid talk, and I could see, when I was that 12-year-old, I was completely like, there was nothing about this question I would even, consider. So I think the kids have a lot more kind of a creativity and insight that's normally we wouldn't assume they would have.
And adults learns also to think of silos. Because at one point I was thinking of doing my PhD, and now I know better. But they think in silos, right? They just think in little silos. And I was reading somewhere, I don't know, there was this surgeon. He does hip replacement, but he just do the right hip replacement. He doesn't do the left. How stupid is that? And so they just learn to drink now just little silos, and they forget that there's all bigger pictures.
True.
I just noticed the time.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, and just to bring it back to relationships, I think that the part there of Arvind's last comment is that we can all conclude that he should not be partnered up with a quantum physicist. just to prove that the conversations might go everywhere, but they really are intentional.
I actually met somebody there. It's pretty nice though. I was, very intrigued by it, but I met somebody cool there.
All right, boys and girls, on that hearty laugh. So I don't know. Let's. I mean, it's a small book, right? So let's read some of it before next Saturday, and we'll see where we're at. Kamini, very nice to have you on. Roger, you were very quiet today. We expect great things from you next Saturday, dude. No comment. All right, cool. All right, I will post this a little bit later on this afternoon. I've got some errands to run. You're all awesome. Love you.
All right, guys, have a good weekend.
Jesse, I hope you feel better. And Lynn, I think you're gone already, but that's such wonderful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Hooray, hooray, hooray. All right, everyone. Goodbye.
Okay, guys. Bye.
Bye.